All right, ladies and gentlemen, hobos and tramps, cockeyed mosquitoes and bow-legged ants. This video is made by Mobile Cow Camp. I am the owner, CEO, CFO, janitor, chief cook, and bottle washer. This video is about my artwork. For the last 70 years, I have played at being a struggling artist. Now, whether you like this art or not, I don't care. So let's get to it. This is not one of my first tries at artwork, but it is one I did while I was going to school at Slope Center in Slope County, North Dakota. The horse. The horse has been the subject of many of my artwork. This was not the first one I did, and it was not the last. For this one, I tried to put some texture in my work. I cut out the bits and pieces and glued it on the paper. And so you get a 3D effect. The saddle had a skirt and a stirrup on it sticking out and flying in the breeze, but somewhere along the years it got ripped off and lost. From time to time, I'd take a break from doing horses and do other animals. Thus, this puppy come to. I was raised on a ranch, so of course I had a brand. I loved to watch the colts play out in the pasture, so of course they snuck into my artwork. Watch out for the snake. This is a folder I used to carry my sketches back and forth from school. If you know horses, you'll see something wrong with this picture right away. The back feet are in the wrong places. The near back leg should be forward and the off back leg should be back. Just one of those screw-ups that a person makes when, for whatever reason. This was done a long time ago, so I don't know why it was that way. I grew up on a ranch and was riding half-broke horses over 10,000 acres. So drawing bucking horses just became a part of my life. My dad always gave me a bad time about my backgrounds. I put too much scratches in the background, but I couldn't help myself, so you got this storm of pencil marks in the background. I mentioned before that I sometimes stopped with the horses and did other animals, and this is one of them. I sometimes wonder if I didn't do a better job on dogs and deer than I did with horses, but I still cluttered up the background. I guess that's one of my signatures on my artwork, is a cluttered background. In one of my art classes, the teacher said to draw a flower. So I come up with this thing. At first I thought it was kind of ugly, but the instructor didn't give me a bad time about it. But later on, years later, I decided I liked it, and I used it in several projects that I did. Working with green horses was always exciting and a lot of fun for me. Saddling one for the first time was always an adventure, and everyone was different. My grandpa and my uncle were always trying to coach me on how to be more safe about it. But I didn't care how much they kicked me, pawed me, or run over me. I always had fun. Rattlesnakes were a common thing on the ranch. The place was full of them. We had several snake pits where they bred and hid out in the winter. But we killed them every chance we got because they were dangerous to the livestock. Calves and colts especially would curious and stick their nose in the snake's business, get their nose bit, and then they would swell up. Sometimes they died, sometimes we pull them through. I used to catch them and put them in a sack and give them to the veterinary in town, and he would take them to Rapid City to the reptile gardens, and they would make anti-venom. One day my uncle and I were riding across the pasture, and he took down his rope and he threw it over a piece of sagebrush. Then he stopped his horse and had him pulled back up. Well, that sagebrush come out of the ground, roots, dirt, and all, and that horse thought he was being attacked, so he went up in the air and the rodeo was on. So I tried to draw a picture of it, and this is what happened. This is a doodle page where I would just sit down and draw oddball stuff, practice certain things and stuff. This one has a lot of shields on it. I got interested in English shields and was messing around with them. Up in the top left-hand corner, there's a lion standing on his hind feet. I eventually turned that into a horse. A couple of pictures of dogs, a bull, a book, horse head, a bird, crown. It's just a lot of just oddball stuff. I saw a picture of cave drawings, and it intrigued me, all the different animals that was on that cave wall. This particular bull attracted my attention, so I tried to copy him. A few years later, I refined the drawing quite a bit, and I turned it into a stencil so that I could put it on a piece of leather, and I eventually had this on a billfold. Calves are an important part of a rancher's life. Selling them is how he makes his money. So I did a few calves. Here's another doodle page with a couple of horses on it. Another horse, imagine that. I had gotten interested in Arabian heads. I thought they were very beautiful. So I took a stab at doing one on this horse, but I didn't do a very good job on it. You'll see a few colored pictures. I did a few of them. Being colorblind, they always turned out kind of weird to color seeing people. I did some in pencil like this one, and I also did some watercolor and one stab at oil painting. This is a stallion watching out for his herd. Those little black dots down below are his family. I always liked roping. When I was small, I got into it in a big way. I was too small to wrestle calves, so Grandpa would stick me on a horse with a rope and told me to rope them by the heels and drag them out so they could brand and work on them. Later on in the years, me and my cousins did a lot of roping at rodeos, team roping mostly. I did a little calf roping, but I wasn't that great at it. Here's another colored pencil drawing. A stallion on a hill overlooking his herd was a pretty common sight on the ranch. We had a pair of great horned owls set up camp in a tree behind the house and down the dry wash a little ways. And I used to watch them, and watch. Every once in a while I climb up a tree and see how their babies were doing, which is a little tricky. But then I started drawing one. This was my first stab at doing a floor plan drawing. Many followed after this. This is another doodle page, and I was just piddling around, just drawing whatever come to mind. Just another wild horse. I was always intrigued by trying to get a picture from underneath a horse's belly, looking out between his head and his leg while he's drinking. And this was my first stab at trying to do. This came off of one of my doodle pages. There was other stuff on the page, but I took this out and broke it out by itself. When I first did it, I thought it was just some chicken scratching. My dad liked it years later when he saw it. So I've just kind of kept that thing as an interesting. Here's another doodle page. The one in the top left, my dad did. Here's a colt and a coyote, and of course a busy background. We had a horse that would pace every once in a while, just a natural gait for him. So I tried to draw it. Jumping sideways is something that a scared horse will do. If a bird or a rabbit jumps out from underneath a bush, they'll take a jump. Sometimes they do it on purpose, thinking they're going to unseat you. But anyway, here he is. My cousin had a black horse whose name was Blackie, of course. So I took a stab at drawing a black horse. A mouse in the house is a house mouse. Do mouses and mooses go together? I watched a movie where they had a bounty out on a horse, so I decided to make my own poster. In one of my art classes, we were supposed to draw a person, and one of the guys in the class decided to volunteer to pose, and so this is my rendition of him. This is not a self-portrait of myself. These next two pictures are as much a doodle as anything else. More doodles, just messing around on paper. I finally got around to doing a cat. Here it is, my one and only oil painting. I never did another one. I wasn't very happy with it, and my dad just told me, stick with black and white. Color don't work for me. Not sure what the heck this is. This is another stab at looking between the leg and the head of a horse while he's drinking. Don't know if I'm getting better or not. think I'm starting to get a handle on these Arabian heads. Oops, a little too much quarter horse, I think. But another doodle. This one's supposed to be a thoroughbred. Just another horse. This is a horse hiding behind a rock and looking at a rider coming up in the distance. This uh, intrigued me, this idea for a picture, so I did several of these attempts at this. I used this one as a stencil for a wood burning that I did. I put a little enthusiasm in my drawing. In one of my art classes, the teacher wanted us to make a stamp, and he gave us a block with a rubber side on it, and we were supposed to carve out whatever we wanted. So I did these two. Another mouse. Looks like this one's singing. Well, I finally got the Indians involved in this cowboy program. This is a stencil I made of a colt. My wife eventually had me put this and another picture I made on her kitchen cabinet doors. My dad did a drawing of a fox, so I thought I would try the same thing, but his was much better. I didn't do too many of these horse heads where you're looking straight on like this. There's a song called "There's a Blizzard Coming On" about a cowboy trying to make it home, so it inspired me to do this drawing. I did this one specifically as a template to burn on a piece of wood. A horse running. Obviously, it's one of my favorite topics. Another common pose for a horse. I think I'm getting better with my backgrounds. Another doodle page. A horse stopping at the end of a rope, and you'll remember in the top right, the horse and her baby. There's another theme I like. This one is a watercolor though. This is the wood burning of the drawing that I showed you earlier. This is a watercolor, I think, of the horse I showed earlier behind a rock, but I put him behind a tree this time. Well, I kind of like this one. From the song The Strawberry Road. These next two are gazelles. I was just doodling around and come up with these guys. This one is more than a wood burning. I chiseled it out to give it some relief and then wood burned over it. Those are brands around the outside edge. I did these two horses as patterns for some leather work I was doing. Later on, I added a third head to this and put it on a briefcase that I had. Another doodle. I'm definitely getting better at my backgrounds. After Roberta and I were married, we lived in Great Falls, Montana. I was stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base there, and we had fish tanks, so I drew a fish. Another doodle page, just some stuff I was messing around with. While stationed in Turkey, I got interested in doing people. This is one of my cousin, Cherry. This is a picture of Roberta. I was stationed in Heraclion on Crete, Greece, and they were having a festival. As part of that festival, they had an art contest. So I did this drawing and entered it in the contest. I got second place. Then one of the judges told me that I'd have probably got first place if it would have been Greek orientated. I told him I got this picture out of a Greek magazine, and that's a Greek girl. And he goes, not Greek enough. Just another pretty face. I decided to do something with an oriental flavor. I used the two horses that I showed you earlier, and I added a third one. And I used this as a template for a leather panel on a briefcase that I had one. Frazetta did a drawing like this. I liked it, so I made this copy and put it on a t-shirt. This is another Frank Frazetta picture that I liked, so I redrew it. When I was stationed in Torrejon, Spain, I joined the rodeo club, so I made some posters for them. While I was stationed in Korea, I was in a Red Horse organization, and they put me in charge of logistics. When I was a kid, my dad used to take a canvas and spray paint it white. Then he'd spray paint black over it. Then he would take a knife and chip off the black and make a picture. So I thought I'd try it. This was my personal logo for many years. Many years ago, when I did my first website, I wanted to make interesting buttons for the menus. So I took a piece of wood, took a picture of it, and then put the names of the pages on the wood. And I think they turned out quite well. I put these names and pieces of wood on the menu, and it looked good. This was another stencil that I used. I saw this poster in a computer store one time, so when I got home, I tried to reproduce it, and I kind of liked the image I got. I added the words, "Don't be afraid of your computer," and I used it as a background on my computer for several years. This is another horse template I used to put on leather. I made this as a stencil, and I used it on several occasions. As you can see, it's got different colors on it. This was another poster I saw in a computer store, and I liked it. So I went home and made one like it. And it's another thing I used as my computer. This is another picture that I used to make a stencil out of. This was another picture that I put on a t-shirt. I like the theme of this picture, but I screwed up the... I think I did a much better job on this picture. This is one of my favorites. I really like this drawing. I'm quite angry at myself about this picture. I did fairly well, except for the eyes and the arm. I've been wanting to create a stylized horse like this for a long time, so I got to playing around with this, and I really like what I turned out. So he's my logo horse now. You've seen this picture already. I've used it in several projects. Mobile Cow Camp, that's me. This is my logo for my company when I had a company to have a logo for. This one has a phone number on it because I used it on my phone as a backdrop. Only on my phone I have my aunt's phone number, not mine. I was stationed at George Air Force Base in California when I retired. And when I left, they gave me a plaque with this picture on it. And I rather liked the picture. So I've kept the plaque. I wanted a picture to put on the back of my bowling shirt. So I took the picture that you saw previously, and I wanted to put a bowling ball where the computer is, but I couldn't get it the way I wanted it, so I sent it to my son, and he did a great job of finishing it off for me. I wanted to personalize my bowling ball, so I carved my horse logo on it, filled the carving with white paint, and there you go. I think this is a griffin. I found this picture on the internet and I liked it. So I screen printed it and made some changes that I liked and took the background out, and now I got a weird character. I made this purse for my Aunt Bonnie. I printed out my logo on some iron on paper, ironed it on a piece of cloth, and sewed it onto my bowling bag. This is a billfold that I made. The next few pictures are from a gun case that I made. This is another billfold I made, but instead of carving the designs in, I sewed them in with the sewing machine with colored thread. I took the Irish shield for the Fletcher family, added my two logo horses, and now I have an American shield for the Fletcher family. I wanted another picture for the back of a bowling shirt, so I come up with this. Then I added lettering. Our drinking team has a bowling problem. I took a piece of plastic and carved out my logo horse and painted it. The next few pictures are 3D printer projects that I did. This first one is a horse kicking, and it holds up your iPhone. This is a cable holder that I printed out. This is a 3D printer project that I like the cat and mouse, but I painted it, and I'm not sure yet whether I like my paint job. I printed out this horse head as a test project, and I think I need to do some more work on the CAD image. Here's a 3D printed jackalope. I like the statue, but I'm not sure about the paint job. I printed out some small versions of my logo horse, and then I found out they make excellent zipper tabs. My aunt has a black cat named Mittens, so I did this 3D printing of a cat, painted it to look like Mittens. Turned out pretty well. Later on, I added whiskers, but that didn't make it to production time. That's all, folks. May God bless you and keep you, and make his light shine upon you all the days of your life.